Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I am recording another one-shot fanfiction that I wrote. This was another one that I wrote during KiriBaku month, so obviously the relationship is Kirishima and Bakugo. The characters that are in this one are Kirishima, Bakugo, and Dinky Kaminari. This one I wrote for the fake engagement, and I feel like I took a little bit of a creative choice on how I wrote the story, and I understand that it could also be a little problematic what goes on in the story, but it was also just for fun, so no harm, no foul. Some of the additional tags for this one are temporary amnesia, memory loss, fluff and angst, concussions, friends to lovers, roommates, characters are pro heroes, fake/pretend relationship, supportive Kirishima Eijiro, mutual pining. This one is called From Fake to Forever, and it is written by me, Beauty and the Bookshelf. Here's the summary. Bakugo wakes up from a concussion with a frustrating gap in his memory and the unnerving feeling that something important is missing. Photos, shared spaces, and silent moments hint at something deeper between him and Kirishima, but Bakugo can't quite grasp it. Kirishima tells a little white lie. They're engaged. But pretending quickly becomes more complicated when buried feelings start to resurface. What happens when a fake engagement begins to feel dangerously real? All right, here's the story. The lights were too bright when Bakugo opened his eyes. He winced, instinctively raising a hand to his temple. It hurt like hell, pounding with every heartbeat, but it didn't feel like anything permanent. Nothing broken, no screaming alarms in his head, just a fuzziness, a void in places he should have had memories, like someone had taken a giant eraser to his brain. A nurse noticed he was awake and gave him a professional smile, saying something about observation and rest. She told him he'd hit his head during a mission, a concussion, they said. He'd been lucky. He didn't feel lucky. We've checked your file and already contacted your emergency contact, Kirishima Eijiro. He's on his way, she added. That caught his attention. Kirishima. That name lit up something in him. Bright, warm, stupidly solid. He remembered that. He remembered him. Bakugo didn't say anything as the nurse left. Instead, he sat up slowly and grabbed his phone off the side table. He entered his passcode, muscle memory doing the work his head couldn't. The phone opened to the lock screen, a picture of him and Kirishima standing outside some takoyaki stand at night. Kiri was laughing, mid-blink, and Bakugo was scowling at the camera, but not really. Not the kind of scowl that meant anything. It was too soft around the edges. He blinked and opened the gallery. Photo after photo scrolled by. Kirishima with a sunburn at the beach, Bakugo beside him, towel over his shoulder. A shot of them on a rooftop at sunset. Kiri's hand raised in a peace sign, Bakugo half out of frame. One of them crammed on a couch together, watching a movie. Kirishima with his head asleep on Bakugo's shoulder. And selfies. So many. Goofy, half-lit, chaotic snapshots. Arms around each other, laughing and comfortable. Too comfortable for just friends, weren't they? Bakugo's chest tightened. The world felt a little more stable now, like his brain was finding anchor points in the fog. He remembered having a crush on Kirishima back in high school, a stupid, hopeless thing he'd never said out loud. But these photos weren't from high school. This was recent. This was them now. The door swung open. Heavy footsteps. Kirishima. Bakugo! Kirishima looked pale, breathless, eyes wide with concern. You're awake. Shit. Are you okay? They said you hit your head. You're my emergency contact. Bakugo interrupted, voice rough. Kirishima blinked, thrown off. Well, yeah, I mean, of course. Bakugo held up the phone, screen still glowing. There's a million pictures of us in here. You're in like half my fucking camera roll. Kirishima gave a nervous chuckle, trying to keep things light. Yeah, well, we hang out a lot. Bakugo didn't laugh. He was still scrolling, eyes scanning faster now, like he was chasing a memory that wouldn't come. I must have finally told you, right? Kirishima frowned. Told me what? Bakugo looked up, frustration flickering behind his eyes. That I liked you. Since UA. I remember that much. I was just too much of a dumbass to say anything back then. But these pictures, this stuff, that means I did it, right? Kirishima froze. The honest answer rose in his throat like a blade, but he hesitated. No, he said. We're not boyfriends. Bakugo's whole face shifted, confused, almost hurt. Then what the hell is this? Why are you my emergency contact? Why are we always together? Why do I feel like I... His voice cracked at the edge, cut off by the rush of his own panic. He rubbed his temple, jaw tightening. God, this is so... Why can't I remember the important stuff? Did we already get married or something? Kirishima's heart lurched in his chest. The nurse's voice echoed in his head from earlier that day. Try not to upset him. Let him find a calm. His brain needs stability right now, not shock. He looked at Bakugo, flushed, frustrated, unraveling, and something snapped in him. A reflex, protective and desperate. No, he said quickly, forcing the words out before he can think of it. We didn't get married. Bakugo looked at him, wide-eyed. Kirishima swallowed hard. We're engaged. There was a beat of silence, the kind that stretches out and feels longer than it should. Bakugo's shoulders eased, just a little. He slumped back into the pillow, blinking like his brain was finally catching up. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Kirishima nodded slowly, numb. Yeah. He sat down beside the bed, heart slamming in his chest like it wanted out. He didn't know why he said it, only that he couldn't take it back now. Bakugo's eyes were glued to his phone screen, thumbs flicking through the photos like a man desperate to catch a hold of a fading memory. The light from the screen reflected sharply off his gaze, and Kirishima winced. Hey, Kat, Kirishima said softly, reaching out to take the phone. You shouldn't be looking at your screen so much with your concussion. It's going to make your head feel worse. Bakugo blinked reluctantly, but let him take the phone. Okay, A. Kirishima gave a small smile. I'll let everyone know you're awake and doing okay, all right? You just focus on resting. Bakugo's eyes flicked to the door as Kirishima stood, nodding slightly. The second the door closed behind him, Kirishima leaned back against the wall and let out a sound somewhere between a groan and a growl. What the hell did I just do? He muttered, dragging a hand down his face. He was shaking, just a little. Not enough to be obvious, but enough that his thumb fumbled over the screen twice before he managed to tap Denki's name. The phone rang once, twice. Denki picked up on the third ring with his usual chaotic energy. Yo, Kirishima, what's up, man? Denki's voice was light but laced with concern at the unexpected call. There was another pause on the other end. Not silence exactly, but Denki was definitely still there, just processing. Is everything okay? Kirishima sat down heavily on the floor, leaning up against the wall, staring at the floor like it might explain everything. I don't know. Kirishima sighed and rubbed his eyes. Bakugo got hurt and has a concussion. He doesn't remember the last few years, but he remembers me. And he saw photos on his phone and thought we were together, and I told him no, and then he asked if we were married, and I panicked, and I said we were engaged, and now he thinks we're getting married, Denki. Kirishima finished in a rush, barely stopping to breathe. Denki let out a long whistle. Dude, that's insane. You think I don't know that? Okay, no judgment. I'm just trying to catch up here. So, you lied to a concussed Bakugo. That's either super brave or super suicidal. Kirishima groaned again and pressed the heel of his hand into his forehead. What do I do? He's going to come home with me because we already live together, and now I have to pretend to be his fiance until his brain resets like a damn video game save file. Honestly, Denki said thoughtfully, that's weirdly convenient. You don't have to change anything. Just act a little more domestic. Maybe start leaving your toothbrush closer to his. Denki, you're not helping. Okay, serious hat on. There was a pause. Do you want him to remember? Kirishima hesitated. Yeah, of course I do. Even if it means losing the fake engagement thing. I never had it to begin with. I didn't want to see him panic. I didn't want him to feel like something was missing. The way he looked at me, like it made sense that we'd be together? His voice cracked a little. I didn't want to take that away from him. Denki went quiet for a second. Damn, dude, that's actually kind of romantic. Kirishima pinched the bridge of his nose. It's not romantic. It's lying to my best friend who has a head injury. Okay, fair. You should probably start thinking about what you're going to do when he does remember. Kirishima swallowed. Yeah, because that was the part that scared him the most. Time passes. The door clicked open. Kirishima stepped in first, flipping on the lights. Home sweet home, he offered, voice light. Bakugo stepped in behind him, his gaze sweeping the apartment like it was a place half remembered from a dream. His mouth didn't move much, just a small grunt of acknowledgement, but he lingered in the doorway for a second, as if crossing the threshold took more effort than it should. Kirishima helped him shrug off his coat, careful, low, watching him closely. You okay? He asked. Bakugo nodded, rubbing the back of his neck, fingertips drifting towards the healing scrape at his temple. Yeah, head's still weird though. Like, I know this place, but I don't know what I was doing here a couple days ago. That's okay, Kirishima said gently. You're doing great. They said that's normal. He gave Bakugo a light pat on the back, guiding him towards the couch. Bakugo let himself be led without protest, collapsing into the cushions with a tired sigh. Do you remember anything else since earlier? Kirishima asked carefully, trying to keep his voice neutral. Bakugo's eyes roamed the apartment. Couple framed photos sat on a low shelf, one of them with their old class at UA. Everyone crammed together and half laughing. Another of Kirishima grinning with wind-blown hair, snapped during some beach trip Bakugo didn't remember taking. On the kitchen counter, 2 mugs sat drying side by side, one black with a dumb cartoon explosion that read boom, and the other chipped with a shark in sunglasses and the words bite me in bold letters. Kinda, he said, bits and pieces. I know this is your place too. Our place. I just don't remember when that happened, or why it feels so normal. Kirishima offered a small, crooked smile. It was kind of a slow thing. I just kept showing up, and one day I just didn't leave. That much, at least, was true. Bakugo huffed a breath, almost a laugh. Figures, that sounds like you. Silence settled for a beat, not uncomfortable, just heavy. Kirishima sat beside him, close but not touching, like he didn't want to spook something delicate. You hungry? He asked. I can make that spicy curry you like. That sounds good. Yeah. Kirishima stood and moved towards the kitchen, pulling drawers open and retrieving pots on autopilot. As he started boiling water, Bakugo's voice drifted over, softer this time. I keep waiting to wake up and none of this be real. But you're here. You feel real. Kirishima paused, one hand resting on the counter. I'm real, Cat, he said quietly. I'm not going anywhere. Their eyes met across the space between them. Something unspoken flickered there, lingering until Kirishima turned back to the stove, heart pounding against his ribs. Then Bakugo spoke, voice low but clear. How'd I ask you? Kirishima blinked. What? To marry you, Bakugo said. I keep thinking about it. I can't picture it. I can picture you, though. That's not the problem. Just not that part. Kirishima forced out a chuckle, trying to play it cool. You mean you don't remember getting down on one knee and bawling your eyes out? Bakugo scoffed, leaning back on the couch with a wince. Hell no, I better not have. They both laughed. The tension cracked just for a second, but the question still hung in the air, heavier than before. Kirishima stirred the pot slowly, staring at the surface. You didn't make a speech, he said, quieter now. No big gestures. You just looked at me one night and said, I'm sick of pretending that I don't love you. Marry me, dumbass. Like it was the most obvious thing in the world. His voice barely wavered. I said yes before I could even think about it. It felt like the kind of moment you don't forget. He didn't look over his shoulder. Couldn't. But in that silence that followed, he could feel Bakugo watching him, eyes pinned to him, like he was trying to see through the story and into the truth underneath it. Kirishima didn't know if it was a mistake to say it, only that he meant every word. Bakugo didn't say anything for a long time, but when Kirishima finally glanced back over his shoulder, he found him watching, eyes a little softer than before, thoughtful, quiet, like maybe somewhere in the fog, something was starting to click into place. That night, after the dishes were done and the lights had dimmed low, Kirishima headed toward his bedroom like always, rubbing the back of his neck, already half tired. Behind him, he heard Bakugo's footsteps following, steady and unhesitant. Just as he reached the door, he glanced back. Bakugo was right behind him, like he meant to walk in too. Kirishima blinked, thrown for a second. "That's your room down the hall," motioning towards the other bedroom. Bakugo frowned. "Don't we usually share?" There was no heat in the question, just confusion, like he was trying to match the pieces of the story to what felt natural in his gut. Kirishima's brain scrambled for something that made sense. Yeah, we do," he said with a small laugh. "I just figured, your stuff's still in the other room. I thought maybe you'd want to shower or change first. You can come in after if you want." Bakugo looked at him for a long second, then nodded once. "Right. Okay." He turned without a word and headed to the other room. Kirishima exhaled, chest tight, and slipped into bed. But 10 minutes later, when the door creaked open and Bakugo stepped inside, hair damp, wearing an old shirt Kirishima had forgotten he had borrowed, Kirishima didn't say anything, just lifted the blanket and let Bakugo slide in beside him. At first they lay there in silence, back turned and space between them. But then Bakugo shifted. Slowly and cautiously, he moved closer until his body settled against Kirishima's chest. He didn't ask, didn't explain, just curled in like it was something he had done 100 times before. Kirishima held his breath, heart aching with the weight of how much he wanted it to be real. His arm slipped around Bakugo's waist, almost without thinking, and Bakugo didn't pull away. They stayed like that, quiet, warm, and close. And when the light filtered through the blinds in the next morning, Bakugo woke up first, eyes wide, heart pounding. He remembered. The memories came back in pieces, not a flood, not a dramatic snap, but enough to fill in the blanks. His last mission, the hospital, the way Kirishima had looked at him when he lied, the truth underneath it, and all the real memories before that. The late night ramen runs, the unspoken closeness, the quiet ache that had always lived between them. He remembered everything now, every moment they hadn't said what they meant. Kirishima padded into the kitchen, still rubbing sleep from his eyes, and expected to find the apartment quiet. Instead, he stopped short in the doorway. Bakugo was already there, sitting at the table with a mug of coffee in both hands, staring into it like it held the answer to something he hadn't figured out yet. Kirishima blinked. "Morning," he said quietly. "How'd you sleep?" Bakugo didn't look up right away, just held the mug a little tighter. "I remember everything now," he said. Kirishima froze. "We weren't together," Bakugo added, voice quiet and steady. A beat passed, then another. Kirishima nodded, his throat tight. "I know." Bakugo looked up, each word deliberate. "But I can't stop thinking about what you said yesterday. The story you made up, the way I proposed." Kirishima swallowed hard and crossed the room slowly, lowering himself into the seat across from him, uncertain but listening. Bakugo didn't drop his gaze. His hands were still curled around the mug, but tighter now, like it was anchoring him. "I meant it. I mean it now." His voice dipped, softened, but never wavered. "I'm sick of pretending I don't love you. So, marry me, dumbass." Kirishima let out a short, shaky laugh, more breath than sound. "You remembered the line." "Of course I did," Bakugo said. "It was the most obvious fucking thing in the world." There was no grand gesture, no sweeping music, just a quiet look between them and a hand reaching across the table, fingers brushing fingers, grounding them both. Later that evening, they went out to dinner. back to the same takoyaki stand from the photo on Bakugo's phone. This time they walked there hand in hand. This time nothing was pretend. All right, friends, thank you so much for listening to this one. It was a little bit longer than what they normally are on the channel, but it was a one shot, so I recorded it all together. I hope you really enjoyed this one. And like I said, parts of it were a little problematic, but it was okay. All right. Please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. I'm going to still be posting a few more podfics like this, so I hope you come back to check out some more. See you next time.